There's a couple brand new Switch stories that dropped that we got to talk about today, starting with Grand Theft Auto The Trilogy, the definitive edition, and some new data that suggests that Rockstar may have messed themselves up by rushing out this title for them a lot more than they did for us. And I want to cover that today and talk about the broader conversation with what we need to see out of game development going forward. And then the big talking point for today's video is some very interesting data that has come out that is suggesting that we may be approaching a very fast turn to an all digital future for the Nintendo Switch platform and gaming as a whole. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. Now, as I mentioned, guys, we're covering a couple different stories today, and I want to kick it off with some brand new information around Grand Theft Auto The Trilogy, the definitive edition, because in case if you guys are not familiar, the hype level from the fan community behind Grand Theft Auto games was at an all-time high when this game was officially confirmed, and we knew it would be coming to all platforms, and then it quickly turned into a mess when it was digitally released. And then of course we were supposed to see physical releases happen on all platforms about a month later. The Nintendo Switch version is still being held back from its physical release, most likely due to Nintendo wanting to hold that game back to get some of the quality and assurance stuff checked out before it actually does hit retail shelves, as Nintendo is helping publish that title as part of the retail release. But the reason it is in the news today is because there's some new sales data that suggests that this game is absolutely flopping, and the continued reports of ridiculous bugs, terrible reviews, and it really just being one of the worst reviewed games in recent memory is absolutely hindering fans going out and purchasing this title. So to kick off this conversation, I want to quickly hop over to VGC, where they have an article typed up with all the information, and then kind of talk about why publishers and developers alike need to see this as a major red flag for games going forward, and why first impressions really are everything. So let's hop through this article together. GTA Trilogy has already dropped out of the UK top 40 weeks after release. The box version has exited the UK chart following poor reviews of its digital release. Rockstar's much criticized Grand Theft Auto The Trilogy, the definitive edition, has dropped out of the UK top 40 box chart just 2 weeks after its physical release. The PlayStation and Xbox versions of the collections were released physically just before Christmas. Following the remaster's digital release in November, the box Nintendo Switch edition is due later. However, the latest GfK data reveals that the Trilogy, which had a troubled launch with very poor reviews, has already dropped out of the top 40 entirely. The week after its release, sales had dropped 70% to number 23, but now it's exited the whole chart. Even considering its poor reception, GTA's box performance is surprising, both considering the incredible popularity of the series. GTA 5 still regularly appears in the sales chart nearly a decade after its release, and the success of other remasters as those based on Crash Bandicoot and Tony Hawk's. The definitive edition was one of the worst reviewed games of 2021 according to aggregation site Metacritic. The highly anticipated remaster collection released in November with a significant number of technical issues as well as unintended documents within its game files, such as unlicensed music and developer notes. Rockstar subsequently apologized to fans for the state of the game and promised a series of updates to improve the title. So while this is bad news for Rockstar, I definitely think it's actually good news for us gamers at the end of the day, because we really have to take a stand and not support poor practices. And I know this doesn't fall on the developers themselves, but rather probably the suits at Rockstar that are trying to rush out a game to meet holiday sales window, where of course you can expect bigger sales numbers as everybody is out doing their holiday gift shopping, and they may see Grand Theft Auto The Trilogy, the definitive edition, and pick it up as an extra gift, or maybe people have extra money that was gifted to them and they run out and purchase it. But this has clearly backfired on Rockstar, as the game was just too much of a broken mess for fans to just simply gloss over it and still continue to support it. And this huge drop off in sales numbers should be a very big wake up call for all publishers and developers alike, that when a game is truly unfinished and broken, the fans will not support it with their own money. And I think that Grand Theft Auto Trilogy Definitive Edition is a perfect example, as I myself was extremely hyped, and you can go back and find videos where I am building up the anticipation of the launch of this game, very excited to pick it up on the Nintendo Switch so I can play it portably or in docked mode. And I have still not purchased this game, one, because I wanted the physical release, which is also ridiculous because they don't even have all 3 Trilogy games on there due to the size of the title, meaning I think I have to download like 2 of the other games that aren't on the actual cartridge just out of the gate. And then also it has not been fixed yet, but according to all reports and everything that I've looked up on the Nintendo Switch version, it is still still pretty much a buggy mess. They definitely have applied patches to push it in the right direction, but it is still not finished, and this is the kind of stuff that we cannot accept as gamers, as getting a full price unfinished product and then just letting the developers slowly trickle out updates as they can. I just think you have to delay the game if you need to delay the game, and we just talked yesterday about commending Sega for actually delaying Sonic Frontiers, as that game apparently was trying to get rushed out for Sonic's 30th anniversary, and Sega decided to take a whole extra year of development to brush up the quality of that game, and that's what we need to see developers do and publishers do going forward, not just this rush job and we'll update it after it hits the consoles and after users start experiencing all of the game breaking bugs and glitches. But I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below on your personal experience with Grand Theft Auto the Trilogy, the definitive edition. If you have picked it up yet, what do you think about it? Have you experienced any of these bugs that have been going around and making viral videos and things online, or has it been a relatively good experience for you so far? And what do you think about this whole huge sales drop off, especially in the physical release? And do you think this will signal to Rockstar that they can't get away with the stuff going forward, or do you think that we will continue to see them just do rush jobs in the future and they're really not going to learn their lesson on this one? So I do look forward to hearing from you guys on all things Grand Theft Auto the Trilogy, the definitive edition, in the comments down below. Now, the big talking point for today's video is some very interesting data that just hit the internet that suggests that physical game releases are trending downward hard and fast, primarily on the Nintendo Switch platform. And I want to go over this here with you guys today, because if you know anything about me, you will know that I have always been a physical collector my entire life. When a game has the option to be bought physically, I lean that direction first, unless if there is a ridiculous discount sale, which we will talk about later in the video as well, on the title to entice me to maybe it's such a good deal to buy it digitally. I will occasionally pass up on the physical option and try to pick it up later on down the line at a used copy or something like that. But I have always my entire life been a physical collector. I will intend to stay a physical collector as long as I can, but of course the data we're about to go over does suggest that we may not be able to hang on to that as it being the primary option too much longer going forward into the future. And you all may even remember we did a video about a month or two back with some leaks suggesting that there's even a all digital Switch planned as far as some new additional model in the future, whether that's an all digital Switch Lite or primary Switch console. Regardless, I do think we're ultimately going to see this at some point in time, and again, the Switch is the one leading the charge with this downturn in physical releases. So let's quickly read through Matt Piscatella's tweet together, where he has the exact numbers, and then we will of course talk about what this means for the future of us physical collectors going forward. So Matt tweeted out the following statement with the graph down below showing the actual data and the downward trend. He's quoted here saying, "Doing my release counting again, 2021 saw a big increase in total VG titles released, up 64% versus 2020, with a big drop in the percentage of titles that had a physical release, under 10%. Switch digital exclusives did the heavy lifting, went from 357 in 2020 to 980 in 2021. The number of titles appearing on Xbox platforms jumped from 500 in 2020 to over 725 in 2021, up 45%, while PlayStation platform releases increased from 742 in 2020 to over 980 in 2021, up 33%. The overall number of titles receiving a retail US physical release was basically flat to 2020. 228 titles had a retail physical release in 2021, down from 236 a year ago. So one thing I do want to point out when you do look at all that data is that it is not all doom and gloom for the future of physical games. I think they will be here a long time as an option, but we are definitely seeing the trend start to take over, where there is of course a whole new generation of gamers that are buying their Nintendo Switches. They're hopping into the eShop. They don't have to get in a car and go to the store. They can just see what is the best selling list. They can look at deals. They can get into free games and then start to purchase the content after they start playing those free games. Like, there's going to be a shift in how games are marketed over the course of time, and I think we're starting to see the beginning phases of that right now. And you also have to have the conversation that, of course, because of how Nintendo operates their eShop, they do allow for a lot of indie games that may not have ever seen a physical release to begin with. So I think that's kind of the shining light on this story, but I definitely am aware and know that there is a lot of gamers that are choosing digital over physical now, just for the convenience sake of not having to take their library around with them. And you know, I completely absolutely get the convenience of that part. Like, they're the games that I do own digitally. It's actually nice when I'm playing on my Nintendo Switch and I go over to my library and I just boot up a game and don't even have to look for the cartridge anywhere. I don't have to go on any kind of search like I do with my physical games from time to time if I've misplaced them. So I absolutely get the appeal of digital games, but somebody that is a physical collector, I will always, as I mentioned, buy physical games as long as I have the option. I'm very grateful for companies like Limited Run Games out there that actually do physical releases for games that otherwise would not have received a physical release, but of course you have to wait longer to get them, and if you really want to play the game, you might be ending up buying both versions. But this absolutely is a step in the direction of an all digital future that I think we will ultimately see ourselves in gaming, and it'll probably be something akin to like what we see with music and movies today. It's like, yes, you can still go buy your 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray discs and things, and you can go buy CDs as physical release and records, and you can still find record stores out there. Like, it's not like it'll be gone forever, but I do think that the mass majority of how people consume gaming going forward into the far distant future, probably only a couple more generations away, will turn into this more all digital / subscription model like we are seeing Microsoft attempt right now with Xbox Game Pass, which by the way is a fantastic value at $15 a month when you look at the number of full price titles you get with that. And if the data comes out that ultimately Microsoft is extremely profitable from that strategy, you will see other companies such as Sony, which we know they're working on their streaming service right now, or download on demand service similar to Game Pass. You're going to see Sony do it, and then ultimately Nintendo is kind of behind on some of the online stuff. They will adopt it as well if it is truly successful and delivers more consistent revenue than doing full price $60 physical releases. So I thought it was a really interesting talking point. I definitely want to hear from you guys at this point in the video on all your thoughts and feelings around both the stories we talked about today. Share with me your experience on GTA Trilogy so far, and definitely share with me your personal collection and how you like to collect video games. Are you physical like me, or are you somebody who does prefer the digital for the convenience? And when do you think we will ultimately see some kind of a shift to an all digital future, or do you think that we really won't and it'll always kind of be a half and half audience? So I do look forward to hearing from you guys and all the things we talked about today, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Thanks so much for watching the video today, everyone. I do truly appreciate you all sticking around until the end. I do at this point in the video want to invite you all one more time to join Sunbro Nation if you haven't done so already. Do so by subscribing below, hit the like button on your way out if you enjoyed it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. That's going to do it for me, guys. I hope you all have a great day. Sunbro Nation, out.